Hello, everyone. My name is Wes Bush. I am the founder of the Product-Led Summit and Traffic as Currency. And my talk is all about how you can decide between free trial versus freemium models. And we'll see what is best for your specific business. So I'm just going to share the slides here. This is the talk, free trial versus freemium. So hopefully you're in the right place. And so what I'm going to promise you for this specific talk is two things. So you will understand the differences between the free trial versus freemium models and when it would make sense to have one model versus the other. And also, like, what are some of the perks and disadvantages disadvantages of each model. And then the last part of this is all going to be going through a framework so that you can decide for your specific business what model will work best for your specific business. So the free trial versus freemium model kind of debate is really interesting because both models essentially help your customers or potential customers understand and evaluate your product and see, hey, is this going to be a good fit for me or not? And so why should you use one model over the other? And so I'm going to start with the free trial argument, since there's a lot of people that are on the free trial side of the argument. So this is just the standard definition. It is a customer acquisition model, and you give either partial or complete access to your product for a limited amount of time. And so you'll see a lot of companies either using like a 14 or a 30-day free trial. I don't recommend just picking a number out of thin air or basing it on your competitors for how long your free trial should last. I would really just base it on how long do people need to experience meaningful value in your product and start there versus just copying someone else. And so that's just the definition. And so there are two types of free trials here. There is the opt-in, opt-out. Now, there's one of these that we like, and one of these I'm going to say most of us probably don't like too much. So the opt-in free trial is the one without the credit card. Yay. So we actually have to give them the credit card if we want to opt into paying for the product. See how that naming convention works? Good. And so the opt-out free trial is when you actually have to sign up initially with the credit card. And so in that case, whenever we sign up and give them our credit card details, and here's where the opt-out gets its name, whenever we are tired or don't want to use the product anymore, boom, we have to opt out and log into the product most likely to then cancel our account so that we don't get charged for the free trial. So those are the two differences. Now, what a lot of people don't talk about is when should you use one model versus the other and why it might make sense to use one model more than the other again. So if we just look at the opt-in free trials, so this is without the credit card. Here is the benefits right away. So little friction, which is great. I mean, you will get more signups. I guarantee you with an opt-in free trial without the credit card, you will get more signups, hands down. You'll also add to your trust factor. I mean, you have nothing to hide, right? I hope not. And so people trust products without the credit card a lot more because they're saying, hey, you can just check out our product, see for yourself, you can get value out of it. If not, cool, whatever. But you can at least get them into the product so much easier than the opt-out free trials. And so the other part is just you don't have to deal with a lot of the customer support, tickets being filed where people are like, I want my money back. I forgot that I opted into your free trial. So you get a lot less of those frustrated users trying to get their money back for a product they just wanted to try out in the first place. So the I guess emphasis on the difference between the opt-in and opt-out free trials and why I'm bringing this all up is because it's all about conversion rates and bottom of line revenue. So there's been a really great study by Tatango who has looked at a lot of different opt-in and opt-out free trials and come to the conclusion that without the credit card, you make more money. So more money in the bank equals #winning in my books. And so there are some reasons why you shouldn't consider an opt-out free trial. So the first one, the really big one that a lot of people don't think about is even if you're charging a $1 free trial, or I guess in that case, not free, but a trial, it can hurt your brands because they'll look at your product and say, huh, that's cheap. And that might not be what you're going for, especially if you're a premium software solution. And so maybe if you are looking for cheap, it might not be, if you're going to build a brand around being a cheap product, that could work. But in most cases, that's not going to fly with a lot of other SaaS companies. And so the other part of this that is probably the biggest factor is it just reduces your bottom line. And so by having an opt-out free trial where you require people to give you their credit card info, it just doesn't work out with the math. And so if you are currently looking at whether you should have a credit card or not, I'd recommend going to the slide deck and clicking that here button, because there is a spreadsheet where you can actually break down whether this makes more sense for your business to have a credit card or no credit card. And so the last part is just people don't really like this option too much. There's kind of self-explanatory there. Now, what I haven't talked about is why it actually does make sense in some cases to use an opt-out free trial. So here are the three main reasons. So let's say a lot of your users are spammers. Yay, we all love dealing with spam, right? And so if that is your business and you're dealing with a ton of spammers, then yes, you can put up more friction in your sign-up process using a credit card so that you can get rid of the majority of the spammers. And so the other part here is if your free trial is actually pretty expensive to run. And so not all free trials are actually free. I mean, they are free for the user, but for the company side, it could be really expensive. Think of something like Netflix as a product we have probably all used. And so whenever you sign up for a Netflix free trial, they use an opt-out free trial. They require you to use their credit card initially when signing up. And so they use that intentionally to add more friction to their product experience so that they only get the high quality people signing up. But part of that is because whenever you do sign up, they have to pay licensing fees every single time you watch a show to some other companies. And so for them, it actually costs them a lot of money for a free trial. Now, if that is your case and you have heavy costs, whether that is through other licensing agreements or maybe just a heavy onboarding fee where your customer support team can't just handle like one-on-one sessions with everyone who signs up for a free trial, that could be an option too that you explore if your costs are too high to manage your free trial. And so the other part is if you have intermittent usage in your product. So products like let's say in the SEO space, like Ahrefs, they deal with this quite a lot actually. So let's say you are a small one-person marketing team, and what you're going to be probably doing is you might run an SEO audit on your site once a quarter or maybe even annually once. And what you do is instead of paying for Ahrefs every month, you will then just sign up for a new account every single time. And so Ahrefs had this problem where they had double the amount of free trial users that they did have paying customers every single month. And so they were kind of scratching their heads wondering like, why is this happening? And a big portion of it was because people were just coming in, using the product, either keyword research or SEO audit once, and then downloading all their stuff and then leaving and then re-signing up the next time they had to do it with the new email. So that's pretty hard to track unless you have robust analytics in place. But if your product does have intermittent usage patterns, might be something to explore in that case. So these are the reasons of why you should or shouldn't use opt-out free trials. Generally speaking, in most cases, it makes a lot more sense to have the opt-in free trial where you don't ask for the credit card. So where does freemium fit into this mix? So freemium has a pretty big argument towards it, and it is, just like a free trial, a customer acquisition model. And so you can access part of the product to prospects free of charge. And the catch here is it's without a time limit. So the TLDR here is, this is essentially the same thing as a free trial, but no time limit. And that is not true. I mean, if you go by the definition, totally true. I'm not trying to trick you or anything. But whenever it comes to the go-to market strategy and how you actually implement and run a freemium versus free trial model, it couldn't be more different. And so with the framework I'm going to share with you in a little while, I'm actually going to show you some of the big things you need to keep in mind if you're going to make this stuff work. So freemium, according to Rob Walling, is like a samurai sword. So unless you're really a master at using it, you could cut your arm off. It's really dangerous. But if you do make it out and you don't cut your arm off, here are some of the perks of what draws a lot of business owners, CEOs, execs, you name it, to really make a decision on should I go freemium or not. So the first reason a lot of people get hooked on the freemium bandwagon is that it's the most powerful acquisition strategy out there in terms of your software application. And so that is enough right there. But if we go ahead and dive deeper into some of the other perks, you can really test what are those upgrade levers of seeing, okay, what are the features and benefits that really get people to upgrade? And so you can test this stuff at scale. Whereas with a free trial, it is much harder to do that and learn a lot more about your product unless you do have that scale. And so you can also turn your free users into a consistent referral source, also known as word of mouth marketing. So if you have that freemium solution, you can have a much bigger funnel. And so this all sounds amazing, I hope at least, but freemium usually only works in some organizations with such few factors that might look something like this. So the first one is you get a really large total addressable market or this will work. So if we think about Spotify, that example there, people who listen to music, they have a really big total addressable market. I mean, a lot of people listen to music. And Jason Lemkin from SaaStr actually went as far as to say, like, if you want to build $100 million freemium product, well, you have to have at least 50 million active users. And that is active users. That is not just total signups. That is people coming in, using your product week over week. So that is a lot of users. And that's assuming that your average user is paying you $10 per month. So those numbers can fluctuate based on how expensive your product is and everything else. But it just goes to show that you need a lot of people in order to make this work. And that's not to say you want to build a unicorn product or not. I'll leave that up to you. But I just want you to know that if you have a very small niche product, it's probably not the best option to go down the freemium route. And so the next part is, if you're going to do the freemium model, you need a low cost to service each new user. If it takes you a lot of onboarding time and effort to service each new user, it's just not going to work for you, because you have to have a lot of people signing up for your product and the support to actually handle it. Which brings us to the next part, is it has to be easy for people to really onboard themselves and get value out of your product in a very short period of time. And so if your product has a really, really long time to value, where it might take people maybe a month or 5 months to get value out of your products, it's not going to work. That's probably better suited to a free trial or maybe even a more traditional sales model. The freemium model has to be quick. Think of Spotify. I log in, I listen to music, I'm happy. And Netflix, same thing. I log in, I see a video I want to watch, I watch the video. Aha moment, realized I like Netflix now. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be that quick. I realize we're not all in the content and entertainment kind of software application, but you want it to be something similar, where it might take less than a week for people to really get some meaningful value from your product. So now, what model brings us best? That wasn't good. So what model will work best for your business? I can't even read now. So we are done the first half of the presentation. The second half is all about what will work best for your business. So in order to help you understand which model will be best for you, I was working on the MOAT framework. And so if I was to break down this framework for you to decide how to build a moat for your business, there's 4 things to this. So there is the market strategy, the ocean conditions. So are you a red or a blue ocean? If you're not sure what that is, I'll get into it a little bit later. And then audience and time to value. So I've identified that these are the four biggest factors whenever it comes to understanding which model will work best for your business. And so this is going to be an activity. I will be asking you questions at the end of each of these sections, and they are completely objective, and you will be building a scorecard to better understand what product, whether it's the model for the free trial or freemium model, will work best for your specific business. So if you have a pen or pencil, you might want to get it out there or just put it on your phone. That works too. So market strategy. This is a powerful growth matrix. It basically shows us the main ways we can decide to grow our business. And so I'm going to start where no one should go. And this is the bottom left-hand side. So if you look at this, it's called out of business. And very rightly so. You do the job worse than everyone else and you charge more. Who wants to buy your product? Now, there are some certain businesses and areas where you can grow a successful business in this area. Think of amusement parks where they can charge you $5 for a bottle of water. You ask me why? Well, you can't buy it anywhere else. So they have these limited market options. But I truly believe that if you are a SaaS application, you cannot afford to live in the out of business area for long. It's just a matter of time before someone disrupts you and takes your lunch money. So I'm going to move up to the differentiated strategy. Now, this is a really great place to be. You get the job done better than anyone else in your industry. And because you do that, and because people love how good you solve that problem, you get to charge more. And so if we look at this, it's a really great way to present your product is really a specialist kind of product. And so one thing, whenever it comes to the free trial versus freemium model argument, is that these differentiated products are often a little harder to use. And that's because they're very specific to that specific audience. And so you'll see a free trial or a typical demo model work best whenever it comes to a differentiated strategy for your business. And so on the right, we have the dominant strategy. And so companies that tout themselves as dominant would be something like Netflix or Spotify or Wave Accounting. And so a lot of these companies, what they do is they get the job done better than the competition and they charge a lot less. Think of Blockbuster versus Netflix. What is the big difference there? I mean, one, you would pay $5 to rent a movie and you'd have it for a week. Whereas the other one, you pay $5 a month and you get access to like the whole Blockbuster. And there's no returns or anything else. And it's all you can eat buffet videos. Which one do you think is better value and gets the job done better? I know you're smart. You know the answer to that one. And so if you are going to be using a dominant strategy for your business, it really makes sense to leverage whether it's a free trial or freemium model. And you typically won't see people using the demo or traditional sales-led model in the dominant strategy anymore for businesses because you need to keep your cost per acquisition low so you can charge people less. And it all feeds into your overall market strategy. And on the bottom right, we have the disruptive strategy. So this is where you really focus on winning customers that are overserved. So an example I'm going to give here is Adobe Photoshop versus Canva. And so Adobe Photoshop is, I guess, arguably one of the most powerful photo suites out there. In terms of editing photos, you could do so many things. You could use the product for years and still have only used 10% of the total capacity of everything that Photoshop could do. And it could take years to actually master the program. And so it's intense. And so there's a lot of people who are using Photoshop who were just making social media graphics. And the founder of Canva was actually making social media graphics as well. And whenever she realized like there's got to be a better way, this whole process is really time consuming, she developed a solution to make this stuff a lot easier. And so in Canva's case, they were able to create what many would consider a worse product if you were to pair it up feature to feature with Adobe Photoshop, but it got the job done so much better and quicker for a lot of people, and they charged less. And so they were able to create a $1 billion business by capturing the overserved customers of Adobe Photoshop and some of those other intense photo suites. And so if we look at some other disruptive companies, just to give you some ideas, since a lot of people aren't familiar with disruptive ones, there's Google Docs relative to some Microsoft Word, Udacity, comparison to traditional universities, and Wave to your typical accounting software that is really hard to use. And so those are just some examples. So whenever you're looking at this market strategy, I want you to think about, where do you fit on this spectrum? Are you going to be leveraging a differentiated, dominant, or a disruptive strategy for your business? And to help you decide what that is going to look like for your business, I created 5 questions for you. And so these are completely objective and will help you decide whether you should be on the team free trial or team freemium. And so I want you to pause this video, answer every single one of these questions, and then once you're done, start putting together a scorecard, because by the end of the MOAT framework, you will have a much better idea of whether it's a free trial or freemium model that will work best for your business. So that is the market strategy. Now we're going to dive into the ocean conditions, whatever that is. So ocean starts with understanding what kind of a market you are currently serving. So there's 2 oceans. There's the red ocean and the blue ocean. And this is all based on the blue ocean strategy, which is a brilliant book, by the way. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I definitely recommend going for it. So the red ocean is just whenever you are competing or trying to outperform your competitors and grab an existing part of the market share. So it is existing demand. So if we look at live chat software, for instance, there's Drift, there's Intercom, there's Olark, there's hundreds of other live chat software solutions out there. And so it is a red ocean. It is really competitive. So when it comes to whether we should use a free trial or a freemium model in a red ocean, well, we should definitely consider it, because as Panjak says from Talkable, self-service is really the only distribution model that you want to undertake once your market is mature, or in other words, a red ocean. Whereas on the other hand of the spectrum, we have blue oceans. And so blue oceans are the exact opposite. Instead of harvesting existing demand, we're creating demand. And that is really powerful for us, because there is a much better chance that we can create a highly profitable market for ourselves, since we control the price at the beginning, at least. And so every blue ocean eventually turns into a red ocean. But when you are in a blue ocean, typically you don't see your free trial or freemium models, because you have to really educate your audience. So in most cases, you will typically see in a blue ocean people leveraging a more traditional sales-led or marketing-led approach to growing their business. And so the questions I want you to ask yourself to decide whether you're in a blue or red ocean is just these 2. So pause it if you need a moment to go through them, and add to that same scorecard you're creating for yourself. All right, so we're halfway done for this section for the framework. And I just wanted to go through the audience. And so it's really important to think about what specific audience you're going after whenever you are creating a free trial or a freemium model. And so what many people do when they already have an existing software business and they say, I want to launch a free trial, free model, they typically have what I refer to as a top-down marketing strategy. This is when your company is targeting the senior execs in a company and trying to sell them their solution. And so this is very sales-led, marketing-led approach to growing a business. It's not product-led. And so if you're hoping to go with a free trial or freemium model, you have to actually change this. And so instead of doing a top-down marketing approach, you need to focus more on a bottoms-up. And so if you've heard of Slack, that is the definition of a bottom-up marketing strategy, because they start with people who are going to be the end users. The end users use the product and it spreads naturally throughout the product. Whereas the top-down approach is really focusing in on people who are at the top who can make decisions for the entire business. And so it's much, much different strategy of how you attract people to your website and grow your audience. But it really impacts it, because let's say if I have a free trial or free model and I'm targeting senior execs with a complicated software tool, they're probably never going to get to that point of value in the product where they understand how to use it. Whereas if we had used the bottom-up strategy and had been targeting the end users, let's say that analytics guru who's going to use our analytics software platform, they could get up to speed in that product relatively quickly and understand the value and then make the pitch to their managers. So it's a much different way of growing your business, but you have to understand which one will work best for your business. And so whenever it comes to what questions you want to ask for yourself, I'd recommend going through these 5 and then just logging it on the scorecard. Perfect. So this is the last part of this presentation for time to value. And so time to value is a really important piece of the puzzle. I've mentioned this a few times already, but if you have a product that takes a really long time to get to value, it might not be even built for a free trial, freemium model. So it's worth noting that, at least at the beginning here. And so the model I'm showing you right now is by BJ Fogg. And it's a really powerful behavior model that can help you understand how you could get someone to do any target behavior. Now, you could apply the same model to building a new habit, getting rid of a bad habit, or just trying to learn a software application. And so there's lots of ways you can slice and dice this matrix, but the point I want to show you is that it really only takes 3 things. If you think about like a recipe to get anything you want, you need motivation, ability, and triggers. And so the motivation factor is really important because, hey, if someone doesn't want to use your product, it's going to be an uphill battle to get them to do that specific behavior. So when they sign up, they have to want to actually use your product. Then on the ability, like if your product's really, really hard to use, it's going to make it so much harder for you and your team to get people on board and get them to that value where they get to that target behavior and they say, wow, that was incredible. I loved using that product. And then the third part is just triggers. And so what can you do in your marketing or even the emails you send out to help people get to that target behavior? And that can even be helpful guides and things like that to trigger people to go back in and achieve that outcome. And so when we look at just how to improve motivation, one of the things I always like to point out is that it's so much easier and cost effective to optimize your self-service experience. So really just focusing on the ability side of the BJ Fogg behavior model, because it's pretty hard to control someone's motivation. And that is really based on a lot of external factors that we can't control. But the ability of our product and how people use it, whether we make it easy to use or hard to use, that's in our control. That's in our capacity to actually fix. And so whenever we look at that, I always like to focus on that side of the puzzle first, because it's going to be a lot easier to do that, to get people to point at our product where they understand the value of it. And so if we look at the BJ Fogg in another lens, there's really 4 categories of users. So there is the people who find this really hard to do, and they have a high motivation. So this is a rookie. This is someone who's like very excited to use your product, but they find it hard. And so they're just struggling. And so these people will put in a lot of hard work to use your software because they're very, very motivated. And so this could even be someone who signs up, or maybe they don't even sign up for your product. Here's an example. So for myself, whenever I was working at Vidyard and our demand generation director decided to switch our marketing automation platform. So I had to learn Marketo. And so I was a rookie. I had a high motivation because I wanted to keep the job. And I found it very hard to do. It was a complex product. And so in that case, I was the rookie. And so you're not always going to have rookies signing up for your products because that motivation factor is going to be really dependent on how they're using the product. And maybe it has to do more with their manager than that specific user. And on the right, we have the spoiled. So these are people who have a very high motivation to use their products and high ability. And so this is the place you want to be. You want to spoil your users with an amazing experience where they're very keen on using your product and also find it easy to do. And below that, we have the veteran. And so that is someone who finds it really easy to use your product and just isn't motivated. And so they've been there, they've done that a lot of times before. Maybe this is someone who has been using your product for years now. And this is where they would typically lie within that funnel. And so the next part is just impossible. So I like to reference this as also Mission Impossible, since I like those movies. But this is where your users have a very low motivation to use your product and find it incredibly hard to do. This is the hardest place to be because upgrading these users is going to be near impossible because they just don't get the value of your product. And so if you find that you are in this space after a while, maybe you've launched and relaunched a free trial freemium model and you still have users fleeing from your product and crazy percentages, then it might not be a good fit actually for you to have the free trial or freemium model. And so the question I want you to ask yourself is just this one. Is it easy for people to experience the core value of your product without any handholding? Yes or no? And so now that we've gone through the MOAT framework, what I want you to do is add up all the freemium points and free trial points based on the questions you have answered. And so what you're going to be able to do is understand, okay, which model works best for your business. And so sometimes you'll find that there may be a 50-50 chance, which means potentially both models could work, or maybe even a hybrid model could work really well for your business. But in some other cases, in most cases, it might be a landslide. You might find that, well, you really have to try out a freemium product or a free trial will be really good for your business. So in a presentation like this, it's very hard to tell you that you should specifically have this model or not, but by using the MOAT framework, you can get really, really close to understanding which model might be best for your specific business. And so does your product have a higher propensity for a free trial or freemium model? I'm curious, leave it in the comments. I really want to know what you got out of this presentation and which model will work best for your business. And maybe, is it even the model that you currently have or not? And so to recap, to really understand whether you should have a free trial or freemium model, you need to understand what is the market strategy you want to have. Is it the differentiated, disruptive, or dominant strategy that you want to use for your business? And then what does your market look like? Are you in a market where you are harvesting demands, or are you creating demands for your business? Because whether you choose a free trial or free model really depends on your specific market and external forces. And then the audience. So are you trying to target people who could never get up to value in your product? If so, that's not a good sign. And you really need to target people who are the end users and could get a lot of value out of your product. And then the last piece of this puzzle is just the time to value. So is it going to be easy for your users to get up to speed, get up to value, or not? And if you can go through these 4 areas, I hope at least that you found 1 or 2 insights that will help you understand whether a free trial or freemium model will work best for your business. So the conclusion here is really just, can you even have a hybrid strategy? And so the answer to that is, well, definitely. There are quite a few different hybrid models. These are just a couple. That's HubSpot, Folio, even Vidyard and GoVideo have used for their products. And so there's lots of different options, but unfortunately in a presentation like this, that's 30 minutes, it's really hard to make that work for you. So if you want to have more confidence in the model that you do choose for your business, what I'd recommend is just booking a free strategy session with me. I love having chats with people about free trial versus freemium. And just feel free to go to that link, trafficascurrency/strategy, and then we can have a chat about this in more detail. So with that, thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the rest of the Product-Led Summit. Cheers.